What's up everyone, it's ENDYMION, and the fires of the red wave are exceeding all expectations as more and more, the intolerance of the past 8 years comes back like a swift kick to the balls of all these worried woke freaks. From the creator of Doom calling for the end of cancel culture only after it affects his side, more sweet baby nonsense, and Halo getting tons of bad news, it's a lot to go over, so let's get into it. This first story is what inspired this video to begin with, so let's start with Doom's creator John Carmack. If you don't know, John Carmack has been very influential in the gaming space since almost its beginnings. He was instrumental in creating franchises like Doom over there at id Software. Pretty much, if you love playing first-person shooter games, John Carmack had a hand in making that style of game a reality. And obviously, as we're still dealing with the political fallout of Trump and all of that, there has been a counterwave against the woke liberal side of the world, where they are now getting cancelled and called out for calling for more political violence. Again, the easiest examples of this is recently with Jack Black and the myriad of people getting fired from their jobs for saying on social media that the next shooter shouldn't miss. Now John Carmack of Doom, Meta, and more has weighed in, and it's quite tone-deaf given the lore behind it. Here's what he said via Twitter. "I'm sad to see the glee that some on the right have at the opportunity to deploy cancel culture over post-assassination attempt comments. I'm a hardcore free speech advocate and I look at it like germ warfare. It's bad for the whole ecosystem. People like to think that they would fight and die for their sacred principles. This is low stakes practice. The actors will say those aren't my sacred principles. I'm going to punch back at my enemy. But to the people at the margin, maybe the principle is important to you, maybe you shouldn't cheer for an online mob. Everyone should be judged by their statements, but appeal to the mob for swift redress isn't a favorite societal behavior for me." This went over about as well as you'd expect, considering what John Carmack is calling here is for mutual understanding between political parties in every regard. Be it actual politics or even games, movies, and so on, but understandably so, people push back because what John is advocating for is clearly something that he didn't champion in the past. Many users in the comments chimed in saying that John is a hypocrite, because back in 2017, when someone he worked very closely with was cancelled, John did nothing. The person in question is named Palmer Luckey. He sold Oculus, the VR headset company, to Facebook for $2 billion back in 2014. Palmer Luckey also got cancelled and subsequently fired from Facebook, or I guess Meta as they call it now, when it was discovered that he gave $10,000 to a Donald Trump presidential campaign billboard. Around this time, as you'd imagined, it was hysteria, and the cancel culture wave was running rampant as dozens, if not thousands of people were fired from jobs, blacklisted, and excommunicated for voting or showing any signs of support for Trump or conservative values. This cancel culture agenda persisted from around 2016 to pretty much right now, which is a total of 8 years, as of the making of this video anyways. And the damage that has been done by this mentality, which was largely perpetuated by woke liberals, has destroyed many lives in the name of woke supremacy. John Carmack, back in April 2024, said this: "I regret not doing more to support and defend Palmer Luckey at Facebook. We were in different states and divisions, and I was largely out of the political loop. But when I became aware of the situation, I should have made a clear and open statement of opposition to the witch hunt. Companies are better off without the crowd that did that. Thankfully, Palmer has gone on to even greater success." The creator of Doom and more clearly feels regret, but words are meaningless, and we all know the only reason why John Carmack said this was because it was suddenly becoming more socially acceptable to say those sorts of things. He would have never said this back in 2020 or prior, we all know that. Because to endorse, protect, or attempt to bring reason to a conversation like this with individuals who are very clearly basing their entire worldviews on their own feelings instead of facts would get you torn to pieces, and that's putting it lightly. One user responded to this. Their name is Boz, according to their profile. They're the Chief Technologies Officer at Meta or Facebook. He responded to John back in April, stating that the culture surrounding being cancelled or cancelling others was being rooted out of Meta for a while now, and most discussions within the workplace are kept strictly to work-related problems. Although another user called out this Boz person, claiming that they were trying to score brownie points by stating that Meta was not driven by cancel culture anymore, of course. Then, Palmer Luckey himself, the billionaire who sold Oculus to Meta and was subsequently dragged through the mud by all of these people who are now claiming that cancel culture is suddenly bad, decided to respond to Boz, and ooh boy, he said it, and I quote, "Great story to tell now that I've dragged myself back to relevance, but you aren't credible. You retweeted posts claiming I donated to white supremacists and a post saying that anyone who supports Trump because they don't like Hillary Clinton is a shitty human being. You publicly told everyone my departure had nothing to do with politics, which is absolutely insane and obviously contradicted by reams of internal communications. It is like saying that the sky is green. Same goes for you telling people that I wasn't pressured into saying anything untrue, that any mention of politics and who I was voting for was up to me. Can I post my original statement, the one that was explicitly rejected on account of saying negative things about Hillary Clinton, or is that still considered work product? Maybe you are lying, maybe you are just ignorant and willing to launder the lies of others about something that you weren't even around for, but don't try to play the apolitical hero here," end quote. Palmer Luckey dragged Boz. He really can't recover from this statement. Palmer confirms Boz was one of the chief people who initially dragged Palmer Luckey's name through the dirt during the first Trump presidential run because it was politically good to do so. Meaning that this Boz individual who works for Meta right now is two-faced and is yet another person, like I've been saying for a few videos now, who just says whatever they need to say in order to protect themselves from future harm. These are the same kinds of people who advocated for cancel culture because it was encouraged by their circles to do so. Boz would respond to Palmer by saying, "Not claiming to be apolitical, I certainly have my own politics, probably different than yours. But internally at the time, I certainly was clear I thought no employment consequences should come from someone's political beliefs, and people asking about it at Q&A were out of line." To which Palmer would then reply, "Great job focusing in on a pedantic critique of a single word and ignoring everything of substance." You can see and feel the frustration in Palmer's every response, and who could blame him really? Imagine your entire reputation, your life's work and opportunities evaporating into thin air because he was strongly incentivized to harass and destroy others based on their political opinions. And now that Palmer has returned to a position of credible renown, he now runs a military contracting company. These individuals like Carmack and Boz are suddenly apologizing and saying that they never advocated for cancel culture in the first place. Yet we both know, had Palmer Luckey just faded into obscurity to never be heard from again, these individuals would still hold these views. What is happening is that the left-leaning woke liberals of the world, or even some of these so-called libertarians like John Carmack says he is, are realizing that the pendulum has shifted and the relaxed protection they came to enjoy was being stripped away from them following the red political wave that is forming as more people support Trump as time goes on. Effectively meaning that now that they are exposed and vulnerable to the same kind of harassment and damage that they dished out for years, it is now suddenly a problem. It's like when you played tag as a kid, and that one kid who would tag people would be so happy to do it, but as soon as you got to tag them, they would yell "time out, it's not fair," as if it's only okay when they do something as long as it mutually benefits them and not the other way around. That is what a bunch of these woke leftist weirdos are trying to run away from. But the internet doesn't forget, and people are making them aware of this daily. This brings us to Sam Hyde, who's probably one of the most based guys that lives today. You've definitely seen him before. Here's a picture of him on screen. If you don't know who Sam Hyde is, he's pretty much someone that fights the establishment on the regular in every conceivable way. The guy is a lunatic, but in a good way. I mean, he's crazy passionate and fights for his ideals, and he means what he says. Anyway, in regards to that original John Carmack post saying that cancel culture is suddenly bad and we all need to be kumbaya and come together, Sam Hyde responded to John Carmack with his viral tweet, which was posted July 17, 2024. It said, and I quote, "You don't know what you're talking about. These people have spent the past decade proving that they are irredeemably ugly inside. And they won't relent until they can make you feel some semblance of the pain and bitterness they feel every day towards God for making them effed up freaks. The only time they care about rules, civility, unity, etc. is when those things can be used to handcuff you while your kids are transed and your money is stolen to pay for some war or some group of people that hates you and is replacing you. There is no reconciliation. We are not gleeful and we are not out for blood. We just know that we cannot live with these people anymore. Their moral lassitude is the reason why American cities are unlivable. Their virtue signaling comes at the expense of child abuse, medical malpractice, and a couple 100,000 dead Ukrainians. They will always play dirty no matter how much we play fair. They need to be politically disenfranchised, publicly shamed. They need to be properly trained with electric shock therapy to keep their effing mouths shut. They are not people who think critically from first principles. They are the mob that you speak of. They are mob mentality incarnate. That is why they are called normies, NPCs, and the like. The idea of them exercising free speech is a joke because the only thing loaded into their software is CNN talking points. I think you are overthinking things. Your last game, Rage, was very bad. In fact, I would go as far as to call it penis poop. What I would suggest you do is stop being a little effing pencil neck dork defending people wishing your president was dead. You're being a smarty pants and get back to making games that are actually good, as that is something we are all in desperate need of right now." End quote. Holy crap, Sam Hyde, ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for one of the craziest free thinkers the internet has right now, and he's right. The truth is simply that the only reason why so many people are coming from all angles to say we need to stop cancel culture is because they're losing their grip on that same culture. Like my previous video about the Actman, who like John Carmack here is suddenly not okay with cancel culture simply because it affects their side of the political angle, the reality is just as Sam Hyde says, it's impossible to live with these people anymore who think like this. The objective truth is that society has gotten worse across the board, and so too have all your entertainment avenues. And they all stem from the same companies and talking points all echoing each other like a big stupid choir. The source of the first world's anguish is not conservative individuals speaking up for those who can't speak. Objectively, the problems that we are facing are because a bunch of woke freaks have made it their mission to make everyone else around them as miserable as they are in every way. While I understand where John Carmack may be coming from, the reality is that it is impossible to stop what is going to happen next at this point. One side of the aisle has been pushing and punching down for years, destroying and transforming the face of society without any resistance or loss. The woke freaks have ruined our society, our schools, our workplaces, and frankly the foundation of places like America or even Canada. Look into your hearts. You know it to be true. And to support what Sam Hyde said here, the truth is simply that now of all times is not when we should let up. Instead, we should buckle up, pedal to the metal, and drive headfirst into oblivion to enact real change for once. If you leave all of these woke freaks to fester without rooting them out, what you'll be left with is the same crap you've been dealing with for years now, with no end in sight, because we know as soon as the pendulum swings back to their side by even a millimeter, that cancel culture and woke ideology will be back on the menu for all as we are subjected, suppressed, and attacked all over again because we didn't want to root out the evil when we could have. The only way to save a dying patch of grass is to raise it in controlled fire so that it can grow healthy again. And the truth is that if people backpedal and say that we can't call these people out, then nothing changes. It's like, imagine you have the woke freaks as one boxer and the conservative side is another boxer. Right now, the conservative boxer has the woke one on the ropes. They're in defensive mode. Would it be in the conservative boxer's best interest to back off and allow his opponent to stabilize and regain control, or to take that opportunity to relish in victory? I'm not saying that we should harm people or anything like that, but now more than ever you have the ability to finally question what a lot of these lunatics have been screaming for so long. So you should absolutely challenge their ideals, debate them, and deconstruct their nonsense for all to see. It's as this one user said in the comments, the guy who got famous for making a game about killing demons is now upset when the demons lose their job. No, it's time to rip and tear. And he's right, because if we allow these things to recover, they will only come back stronger. It's the same in games. How many times have I told you guys to vote with your wallets, to look out for telltale signs of the nonsense that is plaguing media? Through this vigilance, games that would have maybe done well but also pushed nonsense would have flourished, like Suicide Squad or Zao. Instead, all of these, including that new Flintlock game, are instead failing miserably. As of the making of this video, Flintlock has barely 700 active users on Steam. Mind you that this is a new game that took years to make, but sadly is plagued and developed by Sweet Baby nonsense. Would I tell you all to stop applying pressure knowing that this movement is successfully stifling the influence of Sweet Baby Inc? No, that would be moronic. Instead, it's clear that after years of the paying customer, or the voters in this world, they have been attacked, blasted, and denounced for not agreeing. So what can you reasonably do when the woke side of the aisle has for years said that you all need to accept our slop or else? You either submit or you push back, and look where it's gotten us now. Their games are failing, movies are even starting to abandon DEI on purpose because they're starting to understand that it doesn't sell tickets. Even shows recently that went against the audience's wishes are failing too. Just look at Halo. It recently got cancelled after 2 seasons. People kept telling the writers of the show, stop making Master Chief take his helmet off. Chief is not the man underneath it. He is the chief. He is the armor. He was always meant to be a ghost in the machine, so to speak. Instead, you had articles like this one titled, Halo actor Pablo Schreiber, if you don't agree with the helmet coming off in the show, you don't like our show. And here's what Pablo had to say via IGN. People who don't feel the helmet was necessary to come off, they're at such an early conception of what the show could be, Schreiber said. In order to examine the discrepancy between these two versions of the character, Chief and John 117, you can't tell that story without taking the helmet off. If you don't agree with the helmet coming off in the show, you don't like our show, so there's no point discussing it. Cool, so you either accept this moronic change that alters Chief as a character fundamentally, or you don't watch it. And I guess it's clear people didn't watch it enough, and now it's cancelled. Apparently a potential 3rd season is being shipped around to other networks, but to be honest, the show is so far off base with what Halo should be, why would anyone care? I think what this Pablo guy is saying is very similar to the rest of these kinds of people. You either accept things as they want it to be done, or you can just kick rocks. So what do you do in a situation like that then? You either accept it or you reject it. And this has become the tried and true way of doing things now. None of these people will ever listen to you if you voice your opinions or concerns anymore, because they don't care. They never respected you to begin with. The chasm between what the people want and what those in positions of power want could never be more different than it is right now. And when it came to this election, or that Halo show, or just video games in general, the only course of action to get things to change is to reject them, call them out, and suffocate them in whatever way will actually hurt them. Whether it's financially or through views or votes, you can't reasonably discuss things with a group of people who objectively hate you because they see you differently. It's impossible. These woke lunatics were never going to appeal to you or your wants or needs. You were just fodder in their eyes. So we don't like Master Chief not wearing his helmet. Cool, your show is now cancelled. Oh, you suddenly think we should come together conveniently once you lost control and are just looking to save your own skin? No thanks. I'm good. We've lived too long under the boot heel of an ideological group that hates us for far too long. And also in more Halo news from Bounding Into Comics, after previous denial, 343 Industries once again alleged to be handing off development of all future Halo entries. This comes from a user on Twitter named Bathrobe Spartan, great name by the way, who's accurately leaked things surrounding Halo in the past. And it seems to be that 343 is off Halo. Again, like I was saying, you keep giving people the opposite of what they want, and then you fully expect them to eat it up regardless. Now 343 is off Halo, and apparently any future games will be made by outside studios. The majority of 343 is going to be on the business and producer roles, which seems excessive. I mean, apparently they have somewhere around 280 people at 343 left, and only about 30% of that group is actually working on the games. How can you mess something like this up so badly, you may be asking? It's simple. It's hubris. It's sheer hubris. Like everything else, it's a failure of the leadership at the top, and it's the same with John Carmack of Doom and more as well. When someone in leadership like that is refusing to defend the tenets of what it means to protect the employees and their futures, I reasonably cannot support such individuals. It comes off as grimy and disingenuous to me because it's obvious that when the times get tough, these people fold under pressure. So while sure people like John or theactman and more are now saying that cancel culture is bad and we need to all stop doing it, remember that these guys were totally fine allowing other people to fall as long as it bettered their positions. You'll get no sympathy from me, and the reaping will continue, because if it doesn't, the status quo will remain unchanged. So what do you think of Doom's creator now saying that cancel culture is bad once those he didn't save were thrown to the wolves? Should we let up and allow for more understanding, or is it impossible? Is it too late? And what do you think of the many failures in Hollywood that are happening because fans are sick of the nonsense? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, share, like. Thanks to my patrons and members. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one.